Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. After 6 years of marriage, Ellie and I were close to seeing how all our plans would pay off. When we first got married, we had a strict savings plan, and now we finally saved enough for the down payment on the house, and we're going to work on filling this house with children. I'm David Wallace, and I had my own business as a cybersecurity consultant, which allows me to work remotely since I didn't need an office for my business. If anyone had asked me about my marriage to Ellie, I would have told them that we deeply love each other and are devoted to each other. Then I would tell you how we share all the secrets and intimacy and enjoy an amazing life and unbreakable love. Given our love for each other, our financial situation, and common goals for children, I would bet my life that our future was cloudless. There were times when we watched other couples struggle and divorce, only to realize that our love and marriage were on a different level and nothing would ever come between us. Delusional thinking is not an intentional process, but something that convinces your soul and turns into faith. I was a believer. Ellie worked as a regional manager for a national technology company. Her company was growing, and a new vice president was invited from the Manhattan office. Richard Jones was a young, self-confident graduate who was one of those people who knew more than everyone else and loved to demonstrate his power and position over his employees. It was then that my belief system began to be questioned. Since he appeared 3 months ago, my wife has become cold, short-tempered, and not very pleasant in the house. She blamed it on stress at work, but I felt there was more to the story. I tried my best to be a good husband. He was patient, brought flowers home, tried to plan dates in her favorite places, and tried to understand her concerns. One night, when she was upset, she told me all about her new boss. She said Richard was a real asshole and made everyone nervous and stressed. I advised her to quit, but she said that she had applied for a transfer to another division of the company and that we needed money for our new home. She said that now is not the time to quit and would like to wait a little longer. Ellie explained that there is a high probability that the transfer will take place due to her experience working with the company's software, and that the corporate office liked her. Her current job required her to visit other branches 3 times a month, and now she felt she would have to make 1 or 2 more business trips before the transfer was approved. It was 6 weeks and 3 trips ago. There was no transfer, and the stress at home increased. This led to her treating me more like a roommate than a husband. I made it clear to her that I was unhappy, but she said that she needed to be patient and everything would get better, because Richard had become kinder to the staff. Her colleagues at work thought that perhaps in the corporate office he had been told about the decline in morale in the office, and he should change his attitude. She also felt that the transfer could still happen. I could tell she was trying to be more polite at home, but she was still harsh with me. She didn't want to make love more than twice a week. On Friday evening, she came home and announced that she was going to a corporate office in California for 2 nights with her manager, Richard Jones. She said she was going to find out about her transfer while she was there. What I didn't know at the time was that her stress was caused by the pressure Richard was putting on her to make love to him. Ellie was a beautiful 28-year-old woman, 170 centimeters tall, thin, with big breasts and the face of an angel. Up until the last 3 months, Ellie had never given me anything to worry about. I later found out that when Richard began his predatory actions, she suspended him, which humiliated and hurt his ego, and this was the reason for the stress she was experiencing at work. Obviously, it was pure harassment. Why she didn't tell me or her HR department is beyond my understanding and remains a mystery. After Richard realized that his methods were not working, he changed tactics and began flirting, teasing, complimenting, and promising Ellie a great future in the company. After several dinners and numerous conversations about her marriage and bed life, he convinced her to think about being with him just once and what it would mean for her future. All the stress she was under, combined with the upcoming act of betrayal, created this devil woman, and obviously the way she handled the upcoming affair was to blame me and make me look like a bad guy to justify her one-time betrayal and hide her guilt. We haven't had love or intimacy in the last 2 weeks, and she wasn't interested in any of my advances. I didn't beg for a bed, and I made it clear to her that if things didn't change quickly, we'd be in a bad position. She promised that everything would return to normal soon, and just give her some time to sort out her problems at work. I was in love with her, and wanted everything to go back to how it was just a few months ago. I didn't know what to do, but I knew things had to change, so I made it clear to her that I would give her time until she returned from her trip to save our marriage. Our 7th anniversary was approaching, and I kept trying to get the relationship between us back to normal and rekindle her affection before the trip, but to no avail. On the day she was about to leave town, I returned home early to surprise her with a box of her favorite chocolates, which she would take with her on the trip, so that she would know how much I love her and want our lives to return to normal. I knew she had taken the day off to pack her things and was going to leave for the airport at 3 p.m. I returned home at noon with a smile on my face, hoping to surprise her and tell her how much I love her. After I entered the house, I called her as soon as I walked through the front door, but to my surprise, the house was empty. I went into the bedroom and saw her luggage on the bed and a tight-fitting dress on the hanger. She always dressed beautifully, was confident in her body and loved to look fashionable, and I always liked the way she looked. Standing alone in our bedroom, I called her cell phone to find out where she was, and was greeted with short answers and a curt greeting. "Hi, what do you want?" She sounded annoyed that I was calling. It hurt. After all my efforts, I felt like I was bothering her, and I was the one she didn't want to talk to. "Well, that's a nice greeting. I wanted to know how your day went and what you're doing. Listen, I'm going to have lunch with my sister. You already know that I'm leaving for the airport at 3 o'clock. Is there anything else you need to know?" Shocked by her treatment, I just wished her a pleasant flight and hung up without saying goodbye or saying that I love her. I usually ended our conversation this way, and I was wondering if she even noticed. It hurt and I got angry. I sat on the bed next to her folding bag trying to figure out what the hell was going on. The way she talked and treated me was unacceptable. My anger started to flare up as I sat staring at my phone. I wasn't going to wait for her to come home, so I decided to get out of the house. As I got up to leave, a purple object in her open suitcase caught my eye. I've never spied on my wife before, but for some reason I got into her suitcase and took a plastic bag that had a purple thing in it. To my shock, I took out an unopened package that contained a transparent purple nightgown. Remembering that she hadn't worn underwear for me in the last 2 years, I realized that she had specially packed it for someone else. Suddenly, everything fell into place. Then I examined the suitcase more closely and found a box of condoms in her side pocket of the bag, still in the packaging. That's when everything fell into place. The way she treated me was cold and distant. The relationship between us has changed since she started going out of town with her boss 3 months ago. I realized that I was holding the evidence of the novel in my hands. She packed these things for the trip to show them to another man, most likely Richard. In a split second, I realized that I no longer wanted to be a part of her game or her cuckold. I went down to my office, took a piece of paper, and wrote a short note. Trembling with anger, I wrote, "Ellie, I hope he likes your underwear. Now it's completely clear why you've changed in the last few months. Obviously, you don't need me anymore. Don't worry. By the time you get home, I'll be gone and you'll never see me again. I would never have married you if I knew you were cheating. But as they say, live and learn. The only good thing that came out of it is that you will never be the mother of my children. I'm happy that we delayed starting a family. Perhaps Richard can help you in this area. David." Then I took a stapler out of my desk drawer, carefully opened the laundry package and attached the paper to its expensive and delicate material. Then I carefully put everything back in her suitcase. I made sure that I didn't leave any signs that I was at home, and went to a local restaurant to be alone and eat something to try to calm my upset stomach. Ellie on the day of her betrayal. I met my sister Jenny for lunch because I needed to tell someone about what I was going to do. Call it guilt or fear, but I knew I could trust her as a good listener. All this stress was driving me crazy, and I needed to get rid of it before my head exploded from everything I'd been through. After we ordered from the menu, I confessed everything and felt relieved when I laid it all out. I felt Jenny's anger when she looked at me like I was crazy. "Why are you jeopardizing your marriage because of this asshole? In past conversations, you've told me that he's a jerk and that he's been stalking you for the last few months. Why don't you quit or file a harassment lawsuit?" "Jenny, I've gotten to know him a lot better in the last month and he's going through a difficult divorce. He was moody and took out his pain on us, but in the last month he has been extremely nice. He asked me to stay with him just once and I do not know why, but I agreed. We're going to do it once on this trip, and he promised that we would never talk about it again, and he would help me get promoted in the company." "So you're going to cheat on David, the guy you've loved since college, for what? A possible promotion?" "No, it's not like that. Actually, I feel sorry for Richard and I know he just needs it. Besides, David will never know and we'll be back to normal when I get back. I'm sorry, David is calling me. Let me take the call. Hi, what do you want? David, I'm going to lunch with my sister. You already know that I'm leaving for the airport at 3 o'clock. Is there anything else you need to know? Good. As I put the phone back in my purse, I wondered why Jenny was looking at me with disgust. I turned to her and asked in an angry voice, What? Ellie, did you just talk to your husband like that? That was the rudest thing I've ever seen you do. What's going on with you? What are you talking about, Jenny? Do you even realize how you just talked to David? Are you crazy? Jenny, what are you talking about? I just answered quickly, that's all. You answered the phone and asked, What do you want? Do you know what my husband would do if I talked to him like that? And the way you ended the conversation. Is there anything else you need to know? No, goodbye. No, I love you. No, I'm going to miss you. How do you think he feels after being talked to like that? Jenny, what's going on with you? I'm worried about your judgment and the way you behaved. Oh my God, I didn't realize I was talking to him like that. I really said that, didn't I? What was I thinking? Ellie, I think that this affair that you're about to start has affected your mind and jeopardizes your marriage. You told me that you were tired of David complaining that there were problems in your marriage and that you ignored him. Look, it seems to me that you're sabotaging your marriage and treating your husband like shit to compensate for the guilt you must be feeling. My God, you're right. I was a bitch taking my problems out on poor David. I have to call him back and apologize. Do you want privacy? No, stay here. I'm on the phone. Damn it, he's not answering. Maybe he's busy. He always answers my calls. I'm calling again. I hope he answers. Is he not answering? Ellie, send him a message. Damn it, he got mad, and now I don't blame him. And I have to leave in less than 2 hours. Well, sis, you'd better apologize and pull yourself together. I don't think what you've planned with Richard is a good idea, and you need to stop this nonsense before you screw it up. You guys had such a good time together, and you're going to start a family. Think about it, Ellie. I know you're right, but I'm not sure I can stop it now. This is just one time, and my family life and work will be fine again. Richard has had so many problems with the divorce, and he's really depressed. He promised that it would be just one time, and it would help him because I remind him so much of his wife. You know he's playing with you, don't you? Ellie, you can't be that blind. No, you're wrong. Deep down, he's a sweet guy, and his wife is trying to get full custody of his children and destroy him with alimony. When he opened up to me, I felt his pain, and there was a connection between us. I feel like I need to do this at least once after all the time we've spent together. Have you talked to him about your own marriage, or how David feels about you? I looked down at my hands, and after a long pause, I said softly, Maybe I said something about David complaining and how we don't have enough love. Ellie, you're an idiot, and you better pray that David never finds out that you shared your and David's intimate relationship with another man. I have to tell you, Ellie, I think you've already gone too far, and if David finds out about this, your marriage will definitely be in trouble. Can't you see how confusing everything is, and how you're putting everything at risk? Look, I understand your point of view and you're right. That's why it will only happen once. Now I understand how I felt about David, and when I return from this trip, I will make it up to him. He will never know, and it will never happen again. I will never talk about it again, because it will never be in my head. It will be forgotten. You're really delusional. Are you going to make love to another man? And do you believe that once that happens, you'll forget about it? I'm telling you, it's going to change you. It will change the way you think about your husband. Nothing good will come of it. Please think again. Jenny, thank you for your concern, but I'm a grown woman and I can handle this. David will never know, and as they say, no harm, no foul. Well, I hope you know what you're doing, but I want you to remember what I'm saying. You're making a big mistake. Please think about it before you do something that you can never fix. You will always be an unfaithful wife, and I hope you can come to terms with it. Don't worry, I'll figure it out, and in 2 weeks you'll see a happy David. We will work on creating our family. I'm sad and I feel terrible about it because I know that nothing good will come of it. As your sister, I don't want you to do this. Please cancel your trip, quit your job, and apologize to David for your recent behavior. David is also my friend, and if he ever finds out that I knew about this, he will never speak to me again. Thanks, Jenny. I love you and appreciate your concern. I'll think about what you said, but I still need to go on this trip. I'll talk to David and apologize for my bad behavior before I leave this afternoon. David's thoughts at lunch. These feelings were new and unwelcome. Sitting at a table in our local restaurant, I began to reflect on the last few months and how my marriage had gone from a state of bliss to complete shit. I had to wipe my eyes several times so that no one would see my weakness and pain. When I first sat down, all I felt was anger, but these feelings transformed into sadness and resentment when I fully felt the consequences of my loss. The woman I loved and the marriage I lived for are now distant memories. Then, as I thought about my situation, my feelings were replaced by feelings of humiliation and betrayal. How could she do this to me in our marriage? What did I do to turn her into a cheating wife? I knew I couldn't forgive her. I was never going to be with a woman who wanted to be with another man. My ego would never be able to handle it. I know that many of my friends have been through an affair and will tell me to forgive her and come to terms with it. Well, that's not going to happen. Then suddenly my feeling of anger returned when my phone rang and I saw Ellie's number. I wasn't going to answer her calls. The time for talking is over, honey. Your sweet, loving husband is gone. You woke up a monster. Ellie is leaving with Richard. Richard had booked first-class seats on their long flight to the West Coast to impress Ellie. However, on the plane, Richard saw that she was upset when he found out that her husband was not answering her calls and text messages. When she told Richard that she had changed her mind about everything that was happening, he quickly figured it out and played the role of the offended husband again to get her back on track. He brought her a Bloody Mary and convinced her to relax and that everything would be fine. Ellie, calm down. Everything is fine, and I'm sure there's a good reason for that. Maybe he's in a meeting or just can't talk. I'm sure he'll call you back. Besides, nothing happened and everything is fine. After we get back from our meetings, I want you to take a few days off and spend time reconnecting with your husband. I just wish I had a loving wife like you. You know, she won't even let me talk to my girls, and it hurts so much. You're a great wife, and I know that everything will be fine. Ellie saw tears in the predator's eyes when he talked about his girls, and fell for his bait again. After the second portion, she forgot about her problems and took his hand, trying to comfort the suffering man. He worked too hard to let it end right at the finish line. It was all a game to him. Sending women back to their husbands full of his seed was what he lived for. So that the wife understands that she gave herself to another man and at the same time lost respect for her husband. The wife will remember what they did and will keep it in mind when she returns to her husband. What he liked even more was when he met his husband after he defiled his wife at a business event or some random meeting. When this happened, it gave him the greatest sense of power. It was a drug, and he got hooked on these feelings that made him feel responsible and complete. It also made him a dangerous man next to these poor, stupid, and trusting women. When they arrived at the hotel, they walked hand in hand to the reception desk. Ellie was a little shocked when she realized that there was only one room and she would have to spend the whole trip with him. When they left the counter, she looked at Richard and said, "I don't have a room? Ellie, we talked about this. You and I will be together on this trip and never again. Let's just enjoy this one experience as we promised each other. I thought you said it would only be once." "Richard, I'm not sure." "Relax, Ellie. Everything will be fine. One trip, not just once. Listen, until we get home, you're my girl, just this once. Pretend you're my wife, and I promise I'll treat you like the princess you deserve to be. No one will find out, and it will always remain our secret." They checked into the room, and she felt a strong surge of guilt when she saw that there was only one king-size bed. She realized that for the first time since she got married, she would sleep with another man, and at the same time, she was overwhelmed with excitement when the guilt disappeared. Her mixed feelings made her dizzy, and she had to go out on the balcony to get some fresh air. Richard assessed the situation, quietly put the bags in the closet, and joined her on the balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. "Isn't it relaxing? I booked this room knowing that you would like the ocean view." She nodded with tears in her eyes. "Yes, it's beautiful here." Richard turned to Ellie, put his hand on her chin, and lifted her face to his. Gazing into her eyes, he kissed her gently on the lips. After a few seconds, Ellie responded to his kiss, which turned into a hot, romantic, tongue-entwined, passionate kiss. Realizing what she had just done, she gently pushed him away and smiled. Richard knew he was making progress, and he wasn't going to rush things. He knew that in a few hours he would be completely inside this stupid woman. All the while, he would know that he was defiling her, since her ignorant husband was miles away. He felt a wave of satisfaction wash over him as he smiled back, looking into her eyes. That was nice, Ellie. We have a dinner reservation in a couple of hours, and I know you want to get ready, so I'm going down to the gym for a quick workout and I'll be back in time to get ready. She nodded without saying anything and watched as Richard picked up his gym clothes and headed out of the room. Sitting on the bed, she needed to talk to David and make sure everything was okay. Now that she understood how she treated him, she wanted to apologize and make sure he was okay. She loved him and just wanted this trip to be over and their lives to get back on track. Her heart raced as she dialed his phone. She prayed that he would answer and say that he loved her, but there was no answer. He wasn't answering his phone, and she knew he was angry about her last conversation. She then sent him a message, hoping it would help the situation. David, my dear, I'm so sorry for the way I treated you on the phone today. I had a bad morning and I took it out on you. Please forgive me, and I'll make it up to you when I get home. I miss you so much, and I want you to know that I love you, and I can't wait for us to start our family this weekend. Please call me. I need to hear your voice. Taking a deep breath, she got into a hot shower, shaved her legs, and then washed her hair. After getting out of the shower, she admired herself in the full-length mirror and was thrilled to be able to wear the new outfit she had bought. For the next 30 minutes, she worked carefully on her makeup and hairstyle. She was pleased with the impressive results of the evening and the way her hair looked long and spectacular. Forgetting about her message to David, she focused only on putting on her new outfit to see how beautiful she looked. Soon her thoughts returned to David and how she would wear the same outfit for him when she returned home. Richard was in the middle of his run on the gym when Ellie went to her bag of clothes and took out a short black cocktail dress. It was a bold outfit that she bought especially for this trip, showing off her beautiful breasts with a daring neckline. Tonight she was going to be brave and go braless. The short skirt will give her long legs a look with the new high heels she also bought for this trip. After admiring the dress for a few moments, she went to get her underwear and took out several items, including the underwear she intended to wear for Richard that evening. After carefully laying everything out on the bed, she unbuttoned a new pair of transparent black tights and pulled them over her long, smooth legs, over a new thong on her ass. There was no need for a bra tonight, so she carefully put on a dress and then put on high-heeled shoes. Adjusting her dress to make sure that her firm, round breasts were covered, she went to the full-length mirror and admired the woman looking at her from the mirror. She smiled with satisfaction again, realizing how beautiful she looked, and thought again that her husband would like to take off this dress from her and make sweet love to her when she returned home. Then she looked at her watch and realized that Richard would be back in a few minutes, so she began to put things in order. She went back to the bed to put the underwear she was going to wear that night in the closet so she could quickly change when they returned from their dinner date. When she picked up the package from Victoria's Secrets, she noticed that it was already open and askew. Looking closer, she saw a piece of paper attached to her underwear. The strangeness puzzled her and she wondered. Then she took off the delicate items and saw a handwritten note attached to expensive underwear. Still confused, she read the note and immediately froze in fear. Her heart stopped when she read the note, and unfortunately, her world collapsed. The reality of what she was doing hit her hard. She was stunned and couldn't move as she stared at the note. Then, suddenly, a river of tears gushed from her eyes, and she collapsed to her knees, clutching her head in her hands. Now she was lying on the carpet, sobbing and feeling an unimaginable level of resentment and torment that she was unable to comprehend. Her thoughts. Now, in a state of complete panic, she called David on the phone and left a voice message in a trembling voice. David, I received your note, and dear, nothing happened. I've never done anything. Please forgive me. It was a stupid mistake, and I love you. Please call me and talk to me. I have to talk to you, baby. Trust me, nothing happened. Please call me. When she realized he wasn't calling her back, she left several long text messages and was now rocking back and forth on a large chair next to the bed. When Richard entered the room, he saw the train wreck and realized that something was about to disrupt his plans. What's the matter, dear? Don't call me that. I'm not your darling, and because of you, I may have ended my marriage with the man I love. You got me into this situation, and now he's dumped me. Ellie, calm down. What are you talking about? Richard saw the note on the bed that Ellie was pointing at. A smile appeared on his face as he read it, and he experienced that wonderful feeling of satisfaction again. Fooling my husband. That's what he lived for. seduced his wife, and ruined their lives. It all went back to his childhood, when his father abandoned his mother for another woman, and somehow that experience distorted him in the worst possible way. In his sick mind, it didn't even matter if he was using her. He already had what he wanted. Taking her now would just be a bonus, so he would let her cry herself out, and then convince her that since her husband already thinks she was making love to him, they could also do it and enjoy it. He knew it wouldn't be easy to sell, but it was his gift. At least he convinced himself of this, and his past experience with cheating wives gave him confidence in his skills. But Ellie didn't want to participate in this game anymore. She took off her heels and dress in front of Richard, completely ignoring his presence. He was sure that she was about to pounce on him and get what she needed. Appearing naked right in front of him, he tensed in anticipation when he saw her amazing body. He stood up and took off his pants, expecting Ellie to come over and enjoy his manhood. When Ellie saw what he had done, she just laughed. "You're fucking crazy if you think I'm ever going to touch you again. I have to go home to my husband and fix this mess you've made." Richard got angry when he realized he wasn't going to get this girl, and spoke in a tone she'd never heard before. "Is it my fault? You're stupid. You're the one who agreed to this. You left your husband and agreed to make love to me. I never forced you, and you made that choice on your own. Look at the outfit you just put on for our special night." It almost said, "Please take me." Admit it, if you really loved your husband, you would never have agreed to be my girlfriend for the weekend. "You bastard. How dare you talk to me like that? You're just an obnoxious dog, and I don't want anything to do with you. You ruined my happy marriage, and I have no idea how to get David to forgive me and take me back. Hell, if the situation had been reversed, I would have divorced him and made his life a living hell. I hate you and what you've done." An enraged Richard blurted out in response, "Of course, it's all my fault. That kiss you gave me an hour ago is telling the truth. You liked it, and you knew you wanted more." Ellie looked shocked by his outburst as he continued, "Just admit it and stop accusing me of wanting to cheat on the man you say you love. You'll never convince me that you loved him and agreed to cheat on him so easily. You're just like everyone else. You want to have some fun on the side. The main thing is that you don't get caught. As soon as you get caught, you blame the man who seduced you. Well, princess, you would never have let me seduce you. Take you on a cross-country trip and agree to spend the night with me if you really loved your husband. You didn't even mind staying in the same room and sleeping with me. Yes, you must really love your husband. I can't imagine what you would do if you didn't love the poor guy. Trust me, he'll be lucky if he finds out now that you're an unfaithful wife and you can't be trusted before you have kids." His words broke her soul. She knew that he was right and that she had made her own choice. She blamed him for everything, but she knew she could say no at any moment. Even her sister warned her, but she made the decision to leave her husband and be with Richard. At that moment, she wasn't sure which hurt more, the fact that she realized Richard was right about her, or how much she had offended her husband. Filled with remorse and guilt, she quickly packed her things and went down to the lobby to see if the concierge could help her from having to blush at home. She needed to go home and tell David how much she loved him and that nothing had happened. After a 20-minute phone conversation, it turned out that there were no empty seats on any of the return flights that evening. She was stuck in San Diego until the morning, when she would be able to catch a flight home and arrive around 6 p.m. It was already too late, but having no options, she asked them to make changes. Then she realized that she didn't have a hotel room and needed somewhere to spend the night. The concierge, seeing how upset she was, tried to help her. She told her that she had found a room, and if she would give her a credit card, the room key would be ready in a few minutes. After she gave her the credit card, she sat alone and thought about the last 3 months, which David described in her note. She realized that she had actually become a distant wife and treated David terribly out of guilt, taking out her frustration and stress on a dear man. When she saw the concierge's face, she became worried. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wallace. Your card has been canceled. Do you have another card?" "Annulled? Oh my God, this can't be happening. Here, try this one." She realized that David canceled their joint cards when the other 2 cards didn't work. She panicked and tried to figure out what to do. There was no way she was going back to Richard's room. She would rather just stay up all night and wait for morning. Having no other choice, she swallowed her pride and called her sister. "Hello? Hi, Jenny, I'm sorry to bother you. Is everything all right, sis? What happened?" Ellie burst into tears right after Jenny answered the phone. "I should have listened to you, but I didn't. David found out about my trip and put a note in my bag saying that he had abandoned me. I'm stuck here and I'm trying to get home. I'm not going to say that I told you that. It would be rude. How can I help you? Well, David doesn't answer my calls or text messages, so he can't help me. I think he canceled our credit cards and I can't get a room. Could you give them your credit card to pay for the hotel room and I'll pay you when I get back? Damn it, Ellie, you're supposed to be a smart sister, but you definitely haven't been very smart lately. Of course I'll help you. She called her sister back an hour later. Jenny, thanks for helping your idiot sister. I was able to rent a room for the night. I'll be back on the morning flight. Do you think he'll forgive me? I'm not sure, sis. Have you heard anything from him? No, but I left him a few messages and told him that nothing had happened. Well, good luck. The very fact that he knew what you were going to do and you went on a trip is not a good sign. Keep trying to contact him and beg him to forgive you if you want him to come back. David's nightmare. I didn't know if she was making love to Richard or not, but she was clearly going to do it, and that was enough for me. She said she loved me, but left with another guy, planning to get him into bed. I wasn't going to start a family with such a woman or stay married to her. I turned off my phone, moved out of the apartment the next day and drove to Austin, Texas, where I had several vacancies. On Facebook, I changed my status to single and posted a photo of a cheating couple that I created using artificial intelligence, using their online photos of them walking together and holding hands, and wrote, Ellie's new love, Richard Jones. She left me, and I filed for divorce and consider our marriage dissolved. When I checked an hour later, there were dozens of comments from friends who were shocked by my revelation. Several women shared their sadness over my loss and suggested that I call them if I wanted to talk to someone. It's funny, but for the first time in months I had the feeling that I was wanted, and I realized that my life had not ended because of a cheating spouse. From some research, I found out that Richard was not in the process of divorce and loved his wife and children. He just liked hunting unsuspecting women a little more. He really enjoyed molesting his wife and turning her husband into a cuckold. It gave him a sense of power after he possessed his wife. It was a thrill for this egoist. The need for power over these women and their husbands was his addiction. Ellie was stunned when she found out that Richard had lied to her about everything. She made sure that his wife found out about their affair and how he harassed all the women at work. There were going to be some upheavals in Richard's life in the near future. The divorce court. Mr. Wilkes, where is your client? David was supposed to be in court on the day of the divorce proceedings. The judge was furious when he didn't show up and asked his lawyer where he was. The lawyer said he didn't know, but he was sure he would be here soon. She announced a 15-minute break and said that if he was not here, she would charge him with contempt of court. Joshua Wilkes, his lawyer, called David on his cell phone and soon realized that David did not intend to attend the mandatory court hearing. He told his lawyer that he was stuck in traffic. When the judge returned, Joshua stood up and spoke to the judge. Your Honor, my client is stuck in traffic and is desperately trying to get here. Well, that's a pity. I have other things to do today. Your client has been charged with contempt of court, and I am imposing a fine of $1,000. I have reviewed the case file and require 3 consultations before the next court date within 60 days. Tell your client that if he does not attend a consultation or does not appear in court, I will give him 30 days in prison and another fine. Do you understand my decision today? Yes, Your Honor. Joshua scolded his client and told him that he had better follow the judge's order. After refusing the mandatory consultation, he agreed and said he would do it if it would allow the divorce to be finalized. Consulting. It was the first time she'd seen David since she'd made the stupid decision to be with Richard. She ran up to him with outstretched arms, but was pushed away and ignored. After she pulled herself together after the crying fit caused by this, the consultant started all over again. Ellie started the session. She told David how much she loved him and how sorry she was that she didn't realize what she was doing. She went on to explain that she had never had love in bed, and she returned home as soon as she realized what she was doing. She cried and begged for his forgiveness. When it was his turn to speak, he started with a question. Doctor, just to be clear, you expect complete honesty from both of us if these sessions are going to be of any value, right? Yes, David. You both agreed to be completely honest, and this is a straightforward session. It is important that you both speak freely and honestly. Thank you, Doctor. Turning to Ellie and looking directly at her for the first time since she left on her journey, he felt his heart beat faster as resentment and suffering reared their ugly head again. This is hard for me, Ellie, and I hope you'll be honest. You're saying you didn't have a bed with Richard. Nothing happened, and I have to understand and forgive your actions. Do I have the right to do this?" Tears filled her eyes as she smiled and said, "Yes, David, nothing happened. And as soon as I read your note, I realized what I was doing and ran home to you." "Okay, I get it. But I know you, Ellie, and you're not the kind of woman who can just be with another man." "Of course not. I don't give in easily, and you know it," she said, holding out her hand to David. He didn't take her hand, which hung in the air until she pulled it away. "I know you're not like that, Ellie, but I also know that you would never take another man to bed if you didn't have a connection or feelings for that man. I know you had feelings for Richard. Am I right?" She knew that she would have to admit that she had feelings, and she said softly, "Well, yes, but I don't like him. I've always loved only you." "Yes, I loved you too, Ellie. But you see, that's the problem I'm facing in this whole novel." "Yes, I consider it a novel. Tell me, did you spend any personal time with him? Did you have lunch or drink together after work?" "Of course, we work together." "Okay, that makes sense, so I'll take that as a yes." "The truth now, Ellie. Have you ever walked with him holding hands?" Ellie couldn't look him in the eye anymore and said very quietly, "Yes." "I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Did you hold hands?" "Yes, but I didn't love him." "You said that. I know you didn't love him. Tell me, have you ever kissed him passionately?" "Just once, I swear." David couldn't explain what had happened, but all his pain, anger, resentment, and humiliation found an outlet in the form of tears. Because of her confession, all his stress poured out in the form of a river of tears. As he spoke, tears dripped from his face onto his shirt and knees. David was a big, strong guy who never cried, and when Ellie saw the tears, it had an impact she didn't expect. When the tears began to flow, David looked straight into her eyes and calmly asked another question. "Ellie, one last question. If I hadn't sent that note along with the underwear you were planning to wear for your lover, would you have slept with him that night?" She didn't want to answer and sat nervously watching his tears continue to drip. After a moment, the doctor spoke. "Ellie, it's important to find out now. You are in a safe place and you should not hold back. Please answer David's question." "David, I love you, and I would never intentionally hurt you. But if you hadn't stopped me with that note, I would have made the worst mistake of my life and slept with him. But you saved me, and for that I am eternally grateful. Baby, we need to stay together." Turning to the doctor in tears, David said, "Doctor, that's why I can't stay married. You see, she had serious intentions of making love to him. The actual act doesn't matter. Intention is all that matters in my mind. If she had done it once, I know she would have done it again under the right circumstances, and I won't live with this hanging over my head. For the rest of our years together, I would remember her intention to be with someone she wanted more than our marriage. I've always wondered if she still wants it or is planning another session. No, she ended it when she got on the plane, knowing all the time what she was going to do." Over the next 3 weeks, David attended the necessary sessions, and 3 months later the divorce was finalized, but not without constant calls and requests to end the divorce and give her another chance. The calls from her father, sister, and their friends were the same. They all told him he was a fool because she hadn't had sex with Richard. David tried to explain how he felt, but according to everyone, he should forgive her mistake and reconcile their marriage. She loved him. He was being childish, and he should have been a man, taken a step forward and accepted her back. After he got tired of listening to his little ego interfere with their reconciliation. After that, he got several contract jobs across the country, left the city, and never looked back. Ellie was still calling and begging for his forgiveness, and in the end he had to block her number. He thought she finally got the message. She was still young and would find another man, but he hoped that she had learned her lesson and would remain faithful in her next relationship. David's revenge on Richard. It's been almost a year since that terrible day, but I've never forgotten about little Richard. Now I was working all over the country with no connection to home. That's when I put my revenge plan into action. Before I left, I set up a remote connection to the home internet, which gave me access to Ellie's computer. She had a habit of coming home from work, logging into her company's VPN and sending her reports. Of course, when she was done, she just closed the lid, thinking that the system was disabled. Before leaving town, I took advantage of the lack of proper protection on her laptop and just remotely accessed her system, which was still connected to the company's internal network via VPN. You should love lazy support staff who care more about simplifying their work than about security. I earn a lot of honest money this way, so I really shouldn't complain. But I digress. Then I opened her email and sent Richard an email with an embedded rootkit link, which he will definitely open. The letter he saw was supposed to come from Ellie, which said, "Richard, look at this and let me know how I look." Unable to resist a similar letter from Ellie, he clicked on the link. The link activated malware and was quickly hosted on every server Richard could touch, and waited for my instructions, while all he saw was an error message. He did this several times before realizing that the link was not working, and asked Ellie about it tomorrow. As expected, the predator clicked on the link and gave me access to the company's inner sanctum. Then I erased all evidence that the email came from Ellie and the remote access logs on her laptop, and when they checked, they found neither the email nor the link, nor any record of the incident. With any luck, their IT staff will simply ignore the report and move on to other, more pressing issues. I waited a week before starting my business. Using a VPN and several remote servers in 8 different countries, I installed several programs on the main server of Richard's company to help me complete my work. A few hours later, I got access to their most valuable files and downloaded the company's financial statements, salaries of HR staff, engineering developments, and projects that were going to be submitted for patent approval. These patents would have cost the company millions. Then I wanted to have some fun with Richard, and through his work computer, I registered him on several adult websites, including 2 that were on the deep and dark web. Having accessed his life through his computer, I used his credit card and banking information. It was easy to register him and use his company's computer without his knowledge. I set up a program to move any messages from these sites to a hidden file that I created on his computer, which only I had access to. In this secret hidden file, I uploaded dozens of images and videos, company diagrams, and secret engineering documents, and started my Burn Richard campaign. Over the next month, using his company's email account, I sent several documents to their leading competitors from his company email account, asking when payments would be transferred to his account. Then I performed an elementary deletion of the sent emails. Richard was hired because of his financial experience, not his technical skills. So like most newcomers, he thought that once the emails and files were deleted, all traces would disappear. But with any type of investigation, evidence will be easy to find. Then, from his computer, I started sending adult videos to sites that I knew were being monitored by the FBI. In a week, I sent over 100 images that would definitely have attracted the attention of the FBI. At the same time, I paid one of my employees to plant a USB stick with dozens of adult film images in Richard's apartment. It took them less than 2 days to find a way to get inside and install the device. It was all part of my plan. Of course, throughout the process, I was careful using a VPN and several remote servers, as well as my cybersecurity expertise to erase any possible connections with myself. 10 days later, a team of 6 FBI agents entered Richard's office while he was in a meeting with the president of the company. The agents entered, brandishing guns and shouting, "FBI, nobody move," as they flooded the office. The scene was surreal, and the entire office staff froze in fear and watched the scene unfold, remaining frozen in place and speechless. "We have a warrant for the arrest of Richard Jones and full access to your company's servers. We are aware of some federal crimes. You will take us to your IT department immediately." The president gave Richard a scornful look, turned and led the 2 FBI agents to their IT department. Despite the president's exasperated objections, the FBI took over the company's servers and all their data, as a result of which the company was completely blocked. When this became known, their competitors quickly connected and started calling their customers. Richard single-handedly, with my help, brought the company to its knees with his misconduct, for which he was fired and sued by the company. Richard's federal case has been widely publicized. The company he worked for was in trouble and might not survive Richard's riots. The scandal ruined the company's reputation and made Richard a national disgrace. He was found guilty on 200 counts of possession of adult films, wire fraud, corporate espionage, federal theft, and extortion. 25 years in prison, minimum 20 for good behavior. His wife divorced him, and his children will never have anything to do with him again. He lost everything when he tried to cheat the wrong person. As a side note, Ellie became collateral damage after the story of her affair with Richard was leaked. The story was published on several major national news sites. Somehow, these national news sites were hacked and the story went viral for over a week. The headlines told the story of a cheating spouse and her relationship with Richard Jones on Valentine's Day. The hacker gave him the nickname in articles after he was arrested on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, Ellie. Ellie's photo, address, place of work, and her divorce were made public. She couldn't go anywhere without hearing unpleasant comments and catching hostile glances at herself. She eventually lost her job after becoming infamous for her association with him. Her future employment opportunities did not look promising, and her circle of acquaintances would now be filled with perverts and cheating husbands. It's funny how karma can work sometimes. Are you overreacting? Maybe, but he stole my wife, ruined 6 wonderful years of marriage, devastated his own wife, 2 children, his last name, and destroyed Ellie, who was once a good woman, and now divorced, depressed, and left after him. Revenge was justified. This story is far-fetched and cannot happen. On the contrary, it happens quite often. So be careful whose wife you're going to steal, and think twice before cheating on your husband, because not every man is a wimp. Some of us will not accept reconciliation or anything less than the nuclear option. So, to all of you predators and cheating wives, you have been warned. End.